I changed the garage code on my in-laws. So we gave my in-laws the garage code about 2 years ago, back when I was pregnant and they were driving up on weekends to help paint the nursery. That was the whole reason. One weekend, maybe two. I remember my husband Dan saying, "It's just easier than us running down every time," and I said sure, because at the time it was. I don't think either of us thought about the fact that a code doesn't expire. His mom Carol started coming by to drop things off. A casserole, a bag of clothes her sister didn't want. Once it was a single roll of paper towels, which I still think about that one. She'd punch in the code, come through the garage into the kitchen, and just be standing there when I came downstairs. No text, no knock. Just Carol in my kitchen at like 9 a.m. on a Saturday, already unloading the dishwasher the way she likes it loaded. I brought it up gently the first few times. "Hey, would you mind giving me a heads up next time?" And she'd laugh and go, "Oh, I'm not company, honey. You don't have to fuss." Which sounds sweet until you realize it means she's decided the normal rules of being in someone's house don't apply to her. It got worse after the baby. Now there was a reason to come, and she found it every day. I'd be nursing on the couch, shirt half up, and hear that garage door grinding open. I started keeping a blanket next to me just so I wasn't exposed to my mother-in-law 5 times a week. I told Dan I wanted to change the code. He did the thing he does where he agrees with the words but not the actual plan. Totally, yeah, we should set some boundaries. Weeks went by, nothing changed, because to Dan, setting a boundary meant one day he'd feel brave enough to have a conversation, and that day was always next week. Then came the afternoon I actually snapped. I'd put the baby down for a nap, finally, after a 2-hour fight, and I laid down myself because I hadn't slept in what felt like a geological era. The garage door woke both of us up. The baby started screaming. And I came out into the hallway and there's Carol, holding a Target bag going, "Oh no, did I wake her? Poor thing." Reaching for my daughter like the fix for waking her was to also be the one holding her. I said, "Carol, I need you to call before you come over." And she said, "I will never forget this." She said, "This is my son's house too." That was it. That was the whole thing right there. In her head it was still his house, and I was the girl staying in it. So the next morning, while Dan was at work, I changed the garage code. Then I changed the deadbolt too, because I know Carol, and I know she has a key from emergencies. Took me 20 minutes and a YouTube video. I felt insane doing it, and also more awake than I'd been in a year. I texted Dan, changed the garage code and the front lock. "New codes on the fridge for you." He called me on his lunch. "You did what?" "Babe, my mom's gonna lose it." "Okay," I said. "She's gonna call me freaking out." "Okay," I said again. I want to be clear, I wasn't being cold. I'd told everyone what I needed for months, and this was the first version of it that didn't require anybody else to cooperate. Sure enough, that evening Carol showed up. I watched her on the camera. She punched in the old code. Nothing. Did it again, slower, like the door was being difficult. Nothing. Then she went to the front door. Key out, and I heard the key turning and not catching. Over and over, this little metal rattle. Then she knocked. First time in 2 years, she knocked on my door. I opened it, and she stood there holding a bag of I don't even know. And she said, "The code's not working." And my keys stuck. "The code changed," I said, "and I changed the lock." She kind of laughed, waiting for me to say it was a mistake. "Why would you do that?" "Because I asked you to call, and you told me this was your son's house." She looked past me down the hall, like Dan was going to materialize and fix this. He didn't. He was standing in the kitchen, and for once he didn't say a word, which for Dan is basically a heroic act. Carol said, "So I'm supposed to text now, to see my own grandchild?" And I said, "Yeah, you text, like everyone else who loves us." She hasn't used the garage since. She texts now, always the night before, always ending with "if that works for you." And I say yes almost every time, because now it's an invitation, and an invitation is a thing you're allowed to give.